Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Community Services Associates, Inc. Board of Directors meeting of Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021. The board was called to order earlier this morning, and a quorum was established, and we went into an executive session in order to be able to discuss legal matters and personnel matters in executive session. And we wanted to get started on time with the public, and so that's why we did it before the meeting. Since we have, in fact, established a quorum, I think the next item of business is to ratify the approval of the Board of Directors meeting minutes of January 28th, 2021. I assume everyone has reviewed those. Are there any changes, corrections, or concerns with the minutes as sent out? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Spear, Mr. Caskey is seconded. All in favor, please raise your hands. And the motion, any opposed? The motion passes. Next on the agenda are the chair's remarks. Again, I want to welcome the public today. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us live or to view the video later. Today is going to be a relatively short meeting, as we've only had the organizational meetings of all of our committees. I was pleased to sit in on all of them, and they are all looking forward to a very active year this year, with a lot of issues hopefully being considered and addressed by the committees for further action by the board. I do want to stress, as I noted in my email on Friday, this year we added 15 new members to the committee, which means that over the course of the last 2 years, we've added over 36 new members of the public to our committees. I know it's early to be discussing this for next year, but I do want to emphasize the opportunities may be made even greater through our new Zoom technology that I'm sure we'll be using for all of our committee meetings in the future, whether we even go live in an on-person meeting, is the opportunity for residents, non-residents, part-timers, or full-timers to participate in committee work. I know occasionally on Facebook, people suggest that they haven't been included or they can't be included because they're not around enough. We are an open committee organization. We welcome everyone, and I think the fact that we've added over 36 new members in the last 2 years, this demonstrates that. We're not handpicking people, we're asking them what they're interested in, and we're trying to meet those interests. And the best way to be trained on what's going on in CSA for the potential of being a future board member is to participate in committee work. That's the best way you can understand what the issues are. And it's a good training ground for becoming a director in the future, also, which is open to anyone at any time. So I just wanted to welcome the new members to the committees and note that our committees are going to be very active. And I fully expect that our March agenda will be far more complete with committee actions than we have now after the organizations. With that, I will turn it over to the president. Sam?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have many remarks this morning. In fact, I will defer those as we work through the director updates and the budget amendment and weigh in on those. So thank you for that. And I look forward to working with the board this morning and getting through the meeting.
Great. Then I'm going to move over to the director reports. Amanda, can you give us our first for communications? Amanda Sutcliffe-Jones?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Larry?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Larry and Sam, and good morning to the rest of the board members. The communications department has a quick couple of updates. A reminder that our annual meeting for CSA has been scheduled for Monday, May 3rd, 2021. Proxies will be mailed out to members of CSA in mid-March, so keep your eye out on the mail for those proxies coming to you in that time frame. Some events happening down at the community center out in the parking lot. The bookmobile will be visiting the parking lot on March 3rd and March 17th. Those times are from 2:30 to 3:30 on those dates. We also are hosting a deep well donation event. We have those events scheduled for the first Thursday of every month down at the community center parking lot from 8 a.m. to noon each first Thursday. You can learn more about both of those events and all of our events that we're hosting on our website at cpinesliving.com/events. A quick reminder that CSA does have a Facebook page. You can check us out at facebook.com/cpinesliving. We'd love for you to click that like button and follow us on Facebook to get information from CSA. And finally, if we can be of any assistance, feel free to give us a call or email us. Our phone number is 843-671-1343. Our email is info@csacpines.com. If we can be of assistance, or if you need to update your contact information or update your email address, we'd be happy to do so. That's my update, Larry.
Now you're bigger. Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Amanda? Hearing none, I'll move over to Finance and Administration. Victoria?
Thank you, Larry. I'm going to be very short. The CSA 2020 financial records have been closed, and the auditors will be on site next month. So hopefully we'll have audited financial statements in time for the annual meeting. And the other update I have, that I received notice within the last few days that our Paycheck Protection Program loan has been completely officially forgiven. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Victoria. Any questions for Victoria? I did note in an early discussion that we had booked as revenue that loan in the 2020 year, so that in anticipation that it would pass. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So our 2020 year actually exceeded our expected budget thanks to that additional and unanticipated revenue. Okay, if there are no questions, I'll move on then to maintenance, enhancements, and major projects. Russell?
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll be brief this morning. As we all know, Mother Nature has kept us all busy over the last few weeks with almost 7 inches of rain here in Sea Pines. That has hampered some of our efforts on Sea Pines Drive, but we are moving along. We are currently working on forming and pouring curb along the roadway and stormwater drainage infrastructure installation. We're hoping to wrap up phase 1 of this project about mid-March in the first quarter here of the year, and regroup afterwards to see what the summer will bring and what other efforts we can make along the roadway with our infrastructure improvements. Our contractor has been out very busy cleaning our ditches throughout the community. Many of you might have seen them working in the club course and Baynard Cove areas. Currently, we're working near Lot 8, and we're moving along with that effort this spring. For the summer, we're planning the renovation of boardwalks 18 and 35A. Additionally, Sea Pines Circle, the South Carolina State DOT is planning the resurfacing of Sea Pines Circle starting the week of March 1st. They anticipate the project will take about 3 weeks to complete. Aside from that, our maintenance staff has been incredibly busy with our stormwater maintenance, as well as ongoing repairs throughout the community. That's my report for this morning, and we'll take any questions.
Questions for Russell? I do have one, Russell. I happen to be walking along Pine Island and Governor's Road, and I did notice that the terrific amount of stuff that was taken out of the Pine Island ditch. And there seemed to now be some water that was in it from all the rains. Can you explain exactly how all this ditch work will end up improving our water flow? Because I see a lot of water, and I know that you've done a lot of work to take stuff out of it, but what does that end up doing?
Larry, thank you for the question. And the infrastructure system does need a lot of work out there. We are coming back to clean out the pipes in between driveways and other areas. Those pipe ends do have sediment. So again, this is kind of part 1 to clean the ditch out, but we do have to get that sediment out of those pipes to improve flow, as this is all part of our master stormwater drainage system throughout the community to allow water to outfall properly during weather events. So there's still more to be done in that area to answer your question.
Thank you. Any other questions for Russell? If not, I'll turn to David Henderson, Operations and Special Projects. David?
Thank you, Larry, and good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Just had a brief update, a couple Forest Preserve items for you. The Sea Pines Forest Preserve Foundation is pleased to announce the construction of the dedicated equestrian bridge over Lawton Canal is nearly complete. This bridge was made possible with support from the Lawton Stables, the Sea Pines Forest Preserve Foundation, and the Sea Pines Resort. The bridge, once it's completed, will make it safer and easier for all users who are accessing the forest preserve via the Greenwood Drive entrance or when traveling down Lawton Canal Road. In case you weren't aware, the current situation is that the trail ride operation from Lawton Stables, when they get over Lawton Canal to enter the forest preserve, are sharing the vehicular bridge. And so this is a pretty appreciable improvement to safety and convenience by giving them their own way to get over Lawton Canal Road. Lastly, we are in the process of planting the wildflower field in the forest preserve. The field is located in the forest preserve and is immediately adjacent to the Fish Island Pavilion. Flowers should begin to bloom in the next couple months, and I would hope that everyone would take the opportunity when they do start to bloom to go out and visit later this spring. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for David? Hearing none, we'll move on to Toby, Safety, Security, and Transportation. Toby?
Good morning, everyone. Calls for service remain low to average in comparison to our previous years. The only issue really of still a concern is we are still having individuals trying to gain access into unlocked automobiles. If you recall, back in January, we had 14 car break-ins in one day, and I use car break-in kind of loosely. These were not forcible entries. These were vehicles left remained unlocked. So we're still experiencing those, and it's primarily been in the club course area where these are occurring at. So we encourage everyone not only lock your automobile, but your home as well. The other issue, which continues to, and I don't think we really have a reprieve in it, but as our domestic animals, if the animal leaves your property, it's required to be on a leash. We are having a significant number of reports involving coyote sightings. It's currently mating season for the coyotes through the end of March. And what we are recommending, or what state law is that require the individual to have their animal on a leash. This is for the dog's safety as well. We have had dogs off leash inside the forest preserve that have been attacked by coyotes. And they're roaming all over Sea Pines. David can attest. There's probably not an area in Sea Pines that we don't have a coyote that will run through at some point in time during the year. So those, please be on the lookout for those. The trolley schedule for the season has been finalized. We will begin service on March 26th. This year, we're also adding the blue and the red route, which will have limited service. We will operate the trolleys again this season, the same as we did last year under the CDC recommendations at 50% occupancy, and they are sanitized daily prior to going into service. We are making some slight modifications at the Greenwood Gate. Once these modifications will be made, we will be assigning an extra person in the right lane when needed to assist with selling passes. This is kind of experimental right now. We're hoping to double up the staff and get our daily guests in a little more quickly and more efficiently there at the Greenwood Gate. We have finalized our contract negotiations with CSA 360. The contract has been signed, and we will here over the next several months be working with the vendor to install this new program here in CSA. We will start with the Welcome Center. We'll include the rental management portal as well as the app for the Sea Pines property owner. So that's going to be the first phase of this new software being installed. Will be those areas there. And that concludes my report. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Toby? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank all the directors for their attention and hard work during the month, and we look forward to this as a regular part of our board meetings when we are having monthly board meetings. Next, we'll move to the financial update and Mr. Borghese. David?
Thank you. And I'd like to thank all the public for attending our meeting. The one item of business that we undertook at the Finance Committee meeting on February 16 was an amendment to the 2021 budget. And this pertains primarily to what we call a rollover, that is projects that were approved for the 2020 calendar year, but because of timing did not occur, but are intended to occur now in 2021. The biggest item is $750,000 related to North Sea Pines Drive. That expenditure did not get completed in the fourth quarter of 2020, and that amount of money will be spent as we complete the first phase of North Sea Pines Drive. In total, the amendment is for $987,651. $958,000 of that relates to a rollover from the prior year. There are some new projects that need to be completed, about $60,000. And then at the behest of the short-term rental committee, we will be charging gate pass for the beach trolley, as well as incurring expenditures for the beach trolley. So therefore, I would like to make a motion, resolve that the CSA Board of Directors approves an amendment to the budget for 2021 in the amount of $987,651 to cover the cost of the 2020 budget rollover, some additional projects, and the implementation of a beach shuttle fee for short-term rentals, effective between March and September.
Is there a
So
second?
moved. Second.
Thank you, Rich.
Is there discussion? I'd like to note that having attended both the short-term rental committee and the gate entry committee, the discussion of the beach shuttle, both how it was going to work, when it was going to work, and how it would be, whether or not to continue the $2 fee on short-term renters, was discussed at great length. And both committees, I think I can speak both for Carrie and for Dave Ellis, and for the finance committee, at all three committees, that it was strongly recommended that be the case. And so the $2 that's coming to us in this budget comes from three different committees endorsing that amount. Is there any discussion of that issue in particular? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposition? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, David?
That's the only item of business that needed to be attended to.
Okay, thank you for that update. In your packet, you will see three reports. The ARB applications for 2021 January, the ARB Sea Pines Plantations Dwelling Units Density Report, and the Land Use Management Report through 2/11/21. I want to bring them to your attention so that you'll see where things are. I do want to make one note. As you'll look at the Land Use Management Report, you'll notice item 5, which is thank you notifications. I want to give credit to Ryan Cash, our land use manager, who takes the time not only to recognize those homes that need some repair or are in disrepair and need to be brought back and consistent with our covenants, but he also takes the time to write thank you notes where he notices someone who, for example, has power washed their driveway or has taken the time to clean off a roof that he had noticed earlier might need some cleaning, things of that nature. And I think that is to his credit in that it really engenders a good feeling in the community. Sam, I think I speak for you when the idea of land use management and the rules that we'll be looking at are not so much to enforce violations, but to gain compliance. If we can do it by things like thanking neighbors and letting them know that word got out, that if you do something, you get something nice, as opposed to if you don't do something, you get something bad. I think that's a great way to go. So kudos to Ryan and the committee and Sam under your leadership. If there's no questions about any questions about those reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. First is the approval of the committee charters for the Executive Committee, the Gate Entry Committee, the Governance Committee, the Maintenance Enhancement and Major Projects Committee, Safety and Security Committee, and the Transportation and the Strategic Planning Committee. It is my understanding that each of these charters has been recommended and approved by the committees themselves. Are there any questions about any of these charters? Any concerns with any of them? Seeing none, all in favor of the adoption of the resolution approving the charters, please raise your hand. Any opposition? Seeing none, the resolution 11A passes. Next, we have added 2 additional members to committees. To the Governance Committee, we've added Paul Schlager, and to the Short-Term Rental Committee, we've added Armando Del Toro. We've been asked to approve their membership under Resolution 11B. Are there any questions about either of those gentlemen? If not, is there a motion to approve 11B? Mr. Barth, any second? Mr. Thompson, any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposition? None, the passes. Next, you will recall that at our executive session at the end during last meeting, in order to avoid conflicts involving some of our litigation, I asked to create a special legal committee that would act on behalf of the board in certain litigation where all of the members of the board were not otherwise eligible because of potential conflicts. And rather than try to resolve those, we simply decided to make this committee. I apparently failed to actually name the committee members and have the endorsement from in a public meeting. And so we have for Resolution 11C, CSA Directors approves formation of the 2020 Referendum Litigation Committee, having been authorized by the board to act on its behalf as to litigation surrounding Referendum 2020. The membership to include Larry Mufshin, Chair, Dave Borghese, Jim Caskey, David Pardue, and Don Sigmund. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move.
Dave Borghese, is there a second? Ms. Adams? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will ask for the vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. We next have 3 encroachment agreements, one for Baynard Cove Lot 1, Baynard Cove 1 Lot 28, one for Harbortown Townhouse Sites Block A, Lots 9 and 10, and one for Gulf Point Lot 10. These have all been passed around by email, and I understand that we had no objections by email, but I do want to see if there's any further discussion of any of these. Seeing none, is there a motion to pass for approval of resolutions 11D, 11E, and 11F? Mr. Caskey, second. Mr. Minor, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a approval. All in favor of approving these 3, raise your hands. Any opposition? They pass. Thank you for that. With that, is there any further discussion on any issues pending before the board at this time? I know this was one of our shorter meetings. I fully expect we'll be spending more time each of the next months as our committees get more active and involved with our staff. Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
We still take questions.
Pardon?
We still have.
Yes, we will have questions at the end of the meeting. If there are any questions that have been posed during the meeting by the public. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Eric, come make a quick public service announcement.
Please, Steve.
Just wanted to members of the board and the community may have already seen this from us, but I just wanted to let you know about a great honor that we received recently from U.S. News and World Report, and they evaluated over 4,600 properties, hotel properties in the United States, and we were very pleased that our Inn and Club at Harbortown was number 10 in the best 50 hotels in the United States. Tremendous list of properties, and we were really pleased and honored to receive that award last week.
Congratulations. Well done, Steve. Steve, I did have a chance to read the article and look at the list, and having had the benefit of gone to a couple of the others that are numbered in that 50, it is quite a list, and to be at the top 10 is quite an honor. So congratulations.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Well done. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Thompson, a second. Mr. Borghese, all in favor, raise your hands. We will adjourn. We will take exactly 5 minutes. It's now 10:25. We will be back at 10:30 for if there are any questions. So please don't go away. And if the public has any questions, you have an additional 5 minutes if you haven't already done so to give them in, and we will answer any that come in. Thank you. If we can bring everyone back, I'm going to call us back on in a couple seconds. Stephen?
Go.
Give us 30 seconds and then you can bring us back on. You'll tell me when?
Yep, we're good.
Are we back? We're back on, Steve?
Yep.
Okay, folks, thank you for staying around. We only have 3 questions to the board. I'll read them and then we can get the answers. The first question is from Tom Ives, and his question is as follows. What is the status of the planned foot washing station at South Beach? A washing station was originally planned along the path of budding South Beach Villas, and then it was rumored to be moved to the path that exits along the Land's End side. That's the first question. Sam, do you want to?
Happy to answer that, Larry. But currently, there is not a planned foot washing station in the area. We don't have it. It's not a budgeted item for CSA in the capital budget, but happy to take a look at that and see if it's becomes a priority for CSA in the upcoming budget year.
Okay, thank you. And then his second question is, what approvals are necessary for a regime such as South Beach Villas or Bluff Villas to install their own commercial foot washing station? Do we have that information?
I believe it would take some work with the ARB and the town on the regime's property to do that. And happy to reach out to Mr. Ives directly to give him that answer and make sure we've answered appropriately.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Tom, for the question. The second question comes from Alex Cruden. Is there a schedule for repairing the residential roads? Is there a list showing which ones are to be fixed during this year and next year? And if so, where would it be posted? Sam?
So currently we don't have a list posted to answer the first part of the question. We are working with MEMP and we'll be working with the finance committee and a small group of those folks to prioritize the scheduling of paving of the residential roads now that we've got the referendum passed and have additional resources and dollars. And that will go above and beyond the normal scheduling and repaving that we do that is adopted as part of the annual reserve study.
Thank you. So that having passed the referendum, we hope we'll have enough money not only to do our major projects, but having freed up the major projects from the limited amount we have, we can now hopefully look towards residential roads.
We will absolutely be able to do that, as well as be able to do a different level of work in the residential areas, because many of those roads need drainage improvements as opposed to just mill and paving. And so we'll have the ability now to go in and make those improvements as well as mill and repave the roads.
Great. And so I can't lose the opportunity again, thank the public for the strong support they gave for the referendum and for the support they gave for continuing to improve and revitalize our community with not only with the number of people who voted, but with the strong yes vote. So thanks again to the community. Our last question comes from Doug Harribird. I hope I pronounced that right. What about studying a transfer tax for our community? Last year, Sea Pines missed out on at least $1 million in transfer taxes. Again, as a board chairman, I can assure you that a transfer tax has been and will remain on our radar as a potential source of income for improving our operating budget side. A transfer tax, we've been advised by council, would require a covenant change. And a covenant change, as we know, requires 75% approval. When this matter was discussed 3 or 4 years ago, based on a survey that was done in anticipation of a referendum, for whatever reason, there was a strong lack of support for a transfer tax. I believe last year's strong sales demonstrated just how much money could be raised from the buyers of the property. I think we will, if we're moving forward in the direction of a transfer tax, we will spend much more time educating the community about the benefits of it and the lack of burdens of it, because I think there were some in the community who voted against it, fearing that it would affect their side of the house, the seller side, and the sales property. But I know that a large majority of our real estate agents, I think Caroline can speak, would favor it, find a transfer tax to be appropriate. Almost every other community on the island has a transfer tax. There's no doubt that we lost out in 2020 in the huge number of property sales at very high prices in a large revenue. Carolyn?
Larry, I would just appreciate the comments. I think that we should think of it more as a transfer fee and not a transfer tax, just a semantic, but in your discussion, I think that's a better way to look at it. So just my comment. Thank you.
No, thank you. That's an excellent idea. And that again goes to educating the community on what it is and what it is not. So we will, as we move forward this year in looking at other resources that to enhance our operating budget, as I think that it's the sense of the community that as we have more people in the community, we need a better level of security and enforcement, which obviously takes money, and obviously our resources continue to be limited by our our normal assessment, our standard assessment. So there may be other opportunities, but certainly I appreciate the comment, Mr. Everett, and we will keep in line the opportunity. Mr. Caskey?
Yeah, and Larry, as you know, we're talking about the possibility of doing some other business changes through referendums, maybe even within this year. So governance committee and others can start to take up that question and maybe consider what kind of research we need to do, surveys, et cetera, so that we don't lose that opportunity, at least asking the community if they support it.
Right. Thank you. With that, there are no other questions. Is there any questions from the board? If not, thank you again for this morning's. We will be back next month with hopefully more business. And back to the community, if you have any questions in the interim, we welcome them at CSACpines.com. And I personally welcome any questions that you have to me at chairman@CSACpines.com. I often wonder why people write questions on Facebook that could more easily be answered by CSA. And if the answer is a good one, you can post that answer rather than the question, but that's just a personal wonder on mine about Facebook. So thank you again to the public and thank you to the board. We're done. Thank you.
Thank you, board, everyone.
Thank you, board.